Well. Hello, everyone, and welcome back into Crypto's News. It's me, Omar Bam, aka Crypto, and I'm here ready to give you an update on what's going on in crypto today. So, yeah, it's been a little bit since I do a video. I just don't feel the need to do them every single day as I used to, nor do I have the time anymore. I keep hearing from followers who used to follow me back in the day. I started the show originally in 2016 before deleting the old channel, starting a new one if you're kind of new to the show. And yeah, I had calls to continue doing videos, so I started her up again, and I still have some great supporters out there who enjoy the content. You guys who are on YouTube sponsors, Patreon sponsors, or patrons, I guess you would rather say. And those of you guys who just show up time and time again, thank you guys so much for being here. And if it wasn't for you guys, I probably wouldn't continue to do this. I hear from my followers who say, wow, I used to follow you back in 2016. I used to follow you in 2017 hardcore, but life has changed. I've moved on and I'm on to different things right now, but I just wanted to give you a shout out. And I think that's what it's all about. I mean, we're using cryptocurrency as a tool for freedom, for empowerment, for sovereignty of money, for kind of awakening ourselves before we can awaken anybody else, right? So for me, when I first started the show, I remember it was such a journey for me, almost every single day, finding content, learning about this technology and finance overall, and getting to share that journey with you guys. I learned so much through the process, and it's definitely slowed down so much. I mean, it's just hard to tell what's reality these days, especially with all of the AI slop going on out there. But I do feel like it's important to have communities such as this one where we can engage with like-minded and real people, right? So thank you guys for sticking around still. Even though I don't give updates as frequently as I used to, I do like this opportunity to catch up on events that are going on with y'all. So thank you so much for being here. Remember to subscribe if you're new to the show, if you enjoy this content, if you want to continue to get my perspectives on what's happening. And yeah, sit back, grab a drink, guys. We're going to get into a bunch of stuff today as usual. So let's start off with the markets. And if you guys don't know, it's been a whipsaw kind of day, just a normal day in crypto. So we had at one point Bitcoin over $106,000. It is now back to $103,513 as of the time of this video. It is down 0.9% over the last 24 hours. It's actually down over the last month. We know about this war that began between Iran and Israel. And as soon as bombs dropped, so did the cryptocurrency prices. It created uncertainty in the markets, something that markets don't like. But still, we have Bitcoin holding over $100,000. The big expectation now is for the Federal Reserve to begin cutting rates. We're going to be looking at that, when we might expect that, which could give new legs for cryptocurrencies to run. Bitcoin seems to have somewhat stalled out around this area, but I by no means think that the bull market, if such a thing even exists anymore, if there really is a cycle that continues, then I don't feel like the bull market is over by any means. We're just playing kind of a waiting game right now, coiling the springs, tightening the coiled springs, as it were. We have Ethereum down 3.8% over the last 24 hours. It is at $2,418. Dogecoin had a pretty bad week, down 8.6%. It had a really nice climb earlier on midweek, and then it just dumped off. XRP, people are saying, dang, XRP, even though ETFs are launching, it's kind of a pointless coin right now with the new stablecoin, the Genius stablecoin regulation getting passed. Like, why use XRP when they can just mint their own stablecoins? And surely that is something that I think is giving investors pause somewhat in XRP, but it's still holding over $2 and down only 0.8% over the last 7 days. So it actually has held up better than coins like Ethereum and Bitcoin, probably because of some of this ETF news that is coming out. So we have expectations for when the Federal Reserve is going to continue lowering interest rates. So they lowered interest rates back in the end of last year, December 2024, and expectations were high that they would continue to lower rates through this year, at least maybe 3 times, with the expectation being likely that by July we would see that. Now we're actually seeing that the chances for July, according to the CME Group FedWatch tool, are down. So we only have about a 16.5% chance of of interest rates coming down by 25 basis points here in July. So I really wouldn't hold my breath that next month we'll see anything. And if you don't know, the Federal Reserve did just vote this week to keep interest rates the same at the current target rate of 425 to 450 basis points. So yes, pretty much the expectation that we're going to be exactly the same in July, but that does shift as we go into September. September, we're seeing about a 60.2% chance now, so greater than 50% chance that we are going to be seeing a 25 basis point drop so in September after July. So we still have quite a few months left. And then that continues. We're seeing the likelihood that we are going to continue these drops throughout the end of the year. We might even see 375 to 400 basis points come October, 39.3% chance. All of these numbers are constantly changing based on what the Federal Reserve is saying, what they're out there telling the different news agencies, what Jerome Powell says during his minutes meetings and so on. But yeah, looking at this, there was a former president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland who told CNBC that really what we should only be expecting is one cut instead of two cuts by the end of this year. She said that there's no compelling reason to cut now. Loretta Mester, that's her name. She said to CNBC in an interview, adding that by minimizing risks and minimizing costs, the Fed will be better prepared to respond as the economic clouds become clear later this year. The Fed can afford to wait on tariffs and oil impacts to develop, said a former Fed chair, Alan Binder, today. So they're also looking at like housing starts, which are problematic right now. They've been slumping, and the Federal Reserve is watching that. We did see that inflation cooled off somewhat in the latest report, as did labor, which could signify more of an appetite for lowering rates. However, we don't know what the impact of these tariffs that are on one week and off next week and delayed this week and back on this week. We don't know exactly how that will impact inflation, and that's exactly what Jerome Powell has said he's waiting for to see towards the end of the year what these impacts are, and then the Fed will act appropriately. On the other hand, we also had a Fed Governor, Christopher Waller, who appeared on CNBC, and I think this is kind of what caused the big whipsaw today, where again Bitcoin hit $106,000 before dropping off to around $103,000, and we had bigger drops in coins like Ethereum. So I think it started when we had this Federal Reserve Governor, Christopher Waller, coming out and saying on CNBC that I think we're in position to continue to ease rates as early as July. That would be my view, whether the committee would go along with it or not. He also said, if you're starting to worry about the downside risk to the labor market, move now, don't wait. He's talking about the Fed. Why do we want to wait until we actually see a crash before we start cutting rates? So I'm all in favor of saying maybe we should start thinking about cutting the policy rate at the next meeting, because we don't want to wait till the job market tanks before we start cutting the policy rate. I mean, I think it is tanking depending what you're looking at, right? More and more companies announcing, especially tech companies, that they're not going to be hiring people. In fact, they're laying folks off. They're going to be instead using AI. I mean, Amazon was the latest this week talking about that. They're going to be lowering their corporate costs. It makes sense, right? Why would you continue to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in salaries to people who need to sleep and need to eat and might ask for further raises, when instead you can use AI that doesn't sleep and so on? So that's really the kind of move that they're trying to move toward. I think this was always the goal. This should not be a surprise. I'm even hearing that Amazon is going to be flying around blimps, and there are going to be drones coming out of these blimps delivering our packages. So, I mean, this is going to impact the labor market. The Federal Reserve has AI on the horizon, and actually right now at the precipice of this cliff. And they have also just inflation that's not going to be stopping. The U.S. debt clock just hit $27 trillion in debt here in the United States. So, insane. They're going to be forced to lower rates no matter what. But it could be a while, like I mentioned before, that does happen. According to another Fed president, Mary Daly of San Francisco, she said, I think we want to be thoughtful enough to collect the information, and we do have these three scenarios that could unfold. So I look for... Oh, okay. Thank you. So for me, I look more to the fall, and by then we'll have quite a bit more information. Businesses are telling me that that's what they're going to look to for some resolution to the uncertainty. So I think unless we saw a faltering in the labor market that was meaningful and we thought it would be persistent, then I would say the fall looks more appropriate to me. So by the fall, I think most presidents are probably looking for that. And a lot of this is because of calls for President Trump. If you haven't been following this, he had put this out on social media. Too late, Jerome Powell is costing our country hundreds of billions of dollars. He is truly one of the dumbest and most destructive people in government. And the Fed board is complicit, except he's not in government. That's a private institution that basically prints our money, right? Europe has had 10 cuts. We have had none. We should be 2.5 points lower and save billions on all of Biden's short-term debt. We have low inflation. Too late's an American disgrace. Actually, let's go check out Twitter real quick if I'm logged in here, because I had retweeted something that I forgot to pull up here for you guys. Yeah, so here's Kash Patel, who is former head of the FBI, now working with Trump. And it says here, Kash Patel is sounding the alarm on the Federal Reserve. He's urging everyone to wake up and realize the Fed isn't a public institution. I mean, you guys know this, but so many don't, right? It's a private entity run by the elite robber barons who built this. They're rigging the currency game for their own gain.
So I think we got to educate people that the Federal Reserve is not a public government entity. It's a private entity owned by the robber barons that started this country, who manipulate the currency to their advantage. And that needs to be tackled. Again, I'm not the economic guru. I just know it's a problem. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the solution is, but it needs to be addressed. So
absolutely does need to be addressed. I think we just need to educate folks better for sure. And that's a good start, is bringing it up, right? Hey, what's up, guys? PB, nice to see you, man. Sir Wall is doing fantastic. He's got a nice little haircut. He's looking good. I don't know if you saw him sneak out of the room. Winston looks fantastic too. They're both happy guys. Thank you for asking about them. What's up, Soda? Gazer, I'm glad you made it to the live stream. Menno, very nice to see you. I'm glad you made it to a live as well. So cool, man. I know I just popped up live and you guys still made time to show up, so I really appreciate that and love having you guys out here. So yeah, anyway, yeah, Federal Reserve, criminal organization, but they still print the money and they're going to continue to print it quicker, hopefully not just enriching themselves. But unfortunately, we just need to fix the entire system. That's what got me interested in cryptocurrency, so many of you guys, and we truck on, right? I think it's just a waiting game. Sometimes the smartest thing to do is just be patient. I think that's what the leverage traders might not realize. I think there was like $450 million in liquidations when the bombs dropped on Iran from Israel. And today we had something like $250 million worth of liquidation. So dangerous games to be trying to bet. I remember earlier when I saw that prices were going up, folks were saying, this is it. This is the beginning of the continuation of the bull run. And then smacked right back down. Ouch, all I can imagine for that individual. So I think patience is key right here. By the end of the year, we're going to have more clarity, and I'm sure your portfolios will hopefully thank you if they survive, because there are plenty of exploits and malware out there trying to get your crypto. We're going to be getting into that in a little bit, but let's continue on with some of the news. So apparently Trump has gotten out in some way out of World Liberty Financial. So you remember this is that company that was heavily invested in by the Trump family, by the Trumps, and they were doing decentralized finance on Ethereum, buying up wrapped Bitcoin, Ethereum, Chainlink, all these different things that I've talked about. According to their website, and I did go to it, this is being reported on CoinDesk, they have sold off about 20% of their holdings, so they are no longer the majority holders, I guess you could say, in this company. Now it says that they only have 40% as opposed to 60% stake. And this follows the Stablecoin Act that just got passed. I don't know what's the bigger play here. Maybe it's for some political posturing to say that I actually don't have control of that company, and it's not a conflict of interest, that some of the regulations that I'm passing are benefiting my companies and so on. I think that's what's really at play here, but I wanted to give you a heads up on that. And another thing related to Trump, I thought this was super dope, actually, since all we hear is like negative. It feels like so much around him. I thought this was really neat. On June 11th, 11th, there was an executive order signed by Trump on drones, flying cars, and supersonics. So decades of regulatory gridlock have grounded advancements in drones, Amazon and their blimps, flying cars. Finally, right? Here we got AI. We're in the future, man. We need flying cars and supersonic flight. So the Concorde, let's bring it back. Crossing, from New York to LA in what, an hour and a half, 2 hours, as opposed to 5-6 hours. That would be incredible. With today's EOs, the Trump administration is giving America's innovators greater ability to test, develop, and commercialize these cutting-edge aircrafts that will reshape innovation. Also, a pilot program to test flying cars, also known as electric vertical takeoff and landing, or eVTOL aircraft, for EMS, air taxis, cargo, and defense logistics. So air taxis, I mean, that probably means it's not going to be like a residential vehicle. You're just going to hop in your flying car, at least not right away, and take off, right? But you'll be able to order an Uber that will fly you across a city autonomously. I think that's what's being set up here. And of course, drones, in order to, the regulated right drones to be flying across the skies for the name of national security, keeping the wrong kinds of drones out of the sky. Anyway, that's just something I found interesting. I'm especially interested when it comes to the eVTOL and the supersonic flight stuff. So good job on that one. And there's actually a pilot program as well that's testing these things. So it's not just some sort of pipe dream. Hopefully we get further progress on that over the next 3 years. So the Genius Act legitimizes stablecoins for global institutional adoption. This just got passed. So this is the stablecoin regulations, and this first passed the Senate, now completely has passed in a final vote that was 68-30. And what this does, according to Andrei Grashev, managing partner at DWF Labs and Falcon Finance, is that it doesn't just regulate stablecoins, but it does, and it legitimizes them also. It says clear rules, and with clarity comes confidence. That's what institutions have been waiting for, Grashev told CoinDesk during a Spaces show. So, we were able to use stable coins without permission. Let's be real here. But it doesn't open up the ways for different financial institutions to do so, to create their own stable coins, for different companies to do so. And it means that the regulatory agencies are not making profit off of these stable coins. So that needs to be done. But really, I don't think it's going to impact you positively in a big way if you have already been engaging with stable coins. Especially reputable ones. It does create problems for certain companies that are offshore when it comes to trading of stablecoins, like Tether could be having issues coming up here, and it imposes regulatory costs that can be quite burdensome. So overall, I actually don't think it's a good thing at all. That's my opinion. But whatever. Okay, it's great for Walmart and Amazon, I suppose. Amazon's winning big here, so they apparently are getting ready to, or they're exploring creating their own stable coins, which would help them save costs that they pay to the financial institutions and reduce friction, increase speed of transactions, and so on. So it could definitely benefit them. Some sort of stablecoin issuance. Another financial institution that's talking about creating a stablecoin is Bank of America. We're hearing similar from other companies such as Citigroup, I believe Wells Fargo. So all of them are jumping on board here to create their own stablecoins pegged to the US, the fantastic US dollar. Oh yeah. Oh man, what a joke. Anyway, Ukraine introduced a bill to allow Bitcoin in national reserves. I thought this was an interesting move. They have been some of the biggest holders of cryptocurrencies as far as on a national level. So it only makes sense that they would green light the ability to add Bitcoin, digital currencies, and gold to their reserves. So this wouldn't immediately allow them, if this passes, to buy up a bunch of Bitcoin, but it does green light them the ability to do so. It doesn't mean they will buy it immediately, but they can do so in the future if this does pass. So interesting note there. Also, getting into some of the security stuff I wanted to mention with you guys. CZ, I guess former CEO of Binance, right? I think he's still on the board. I don't even know what's going on with this guy. He went to jail. He came out. He's doing pretty good, I'm sure. So he's talking about different executives that have been falling to falling for different scams that are supposedly perpetuated by the North Korean hacking group Lazarus. So this was interesting. There was this report talking about how attackers posed as one of Fujimoto's, that's the person who created this report, one of her acquaintances in what appeared to be a normal Zoom video call. During the 10-minute meeting, the impersonators raised concerns over her audio quality and shared a link to an alleged software update. After she clicked it, the hackers gained unauthorized access to her systems, accessing sensitive data and taking over her official X, Telegram, and MetaMask accounts. Ow, so like, hey, I can't see you there. Can you just click on this? It's going to update your Zoom. Just click on it. We can be fine. Boom, lost everything. When I opened the Zoom link, her face appeared, so I didn't suspect anything. If I had known about this kind of attack, I might not have clicked the link. So this is probably about deep fakes, which are getting easier and easier, cheaper and more accurate to do when it comes to reproducing how someone looks, how they act, and how they speak. That could easily fool someone over a lower quality Zoom call. So be careful clicking anything. As always, I advise caution in that. Another one has to do with a Python-based malware disguised as job applications to target crypto workers. It's primarily been targeting folks in India, but I could imagine there's definitely a global market for scamming people just outside of it. So I wanted to bring that up to you guys. So this attack vector is simple. It says here it impersonates top crypto firms like Coinbase, Robinhood, Uniswap through highly polished fake career sites and lures software engineers, marketers, and designers into completing staged skill tests. Once the target fills out the basic information, answers technical questions, they're prompted to put into their Linux systems a command, right? And then this downloads and launches a Python-based RAT, which is a hidden zip file that basically unpacks the code basically unpacks this archive that has 6 core modules responsible for persistence, system fingerprinting, file transfer, remote shell access, and browser data theft. It'll pull login credentials, session cookies, wallet data from over 80 extensions, including MetaMask, Phantom, TronLink. 1Password allows for full remote control of infected machines. So you can see how that is absolutely frightening. So be careful running any kind of command in your Linux systems these days that you might have found through a job posting that was going to hire you at Coinbase or something like that. Super scary to hear about that one, and I'm sure plenty of folks could fall for that one, even if they're so savvy enough to have Linux. In your greed and you're wanting this job, it's very easy to just skip steps when you're sleep deprived or something like that. So be careful. Another one is in relation to malware on Android devices that are being sold. This has primarily been affecting folks in Russia, but again, something that could affect you anywhere if you're buying from illegitimate sources, if you're trying to get a cheap Android phone on eBay or something like that. These phones, looking new, somewhere along the supply chain, they were tampered with, infected with a malware, and you might not notice for a while that this malware was on your fancy new Android device that you got pretty cheap. But after a while, it's actually been logging 2FA, it's been logging passwords, and eventually it could steal all of your crypto. So be careful buying phones these days. I mean, I also heard about this affecting Android OS in general when it came to certain TV models and different Internet of Things devices that you might have. So if you bought some sort of cheap, I don't know, on Temu or Shein or whatever, you bought something cheap that would plug into your outlet to control your lights or a light bulb, it might be snooping and leaking that data on your network over to sources that would nefarious sources that will try to steal your crypto or whatever else, your information. So be very careful what you buy these days, what devices you're allowed to plug into your network, what you're clicking on, as always, what commands you're running. It's a time when, as more and more people learn about crypto, more and more people want to steal your crypto and have more and more savvy to do so, especially with AI making it easier to draw up code to do so. It's never been simpler for folks to get duped. So I wouldn't wish that upon you guys. Hopefully you guys survive till the fall when interest rates should be coming down and maybe crypto prices will be coming up. At least that's my personal prediction, but we have to hold out to them. We have to hold on to our crypto. You have to be safe, be careful when it comes to leverage trading, and just be patient, guys, right? Best advice is click nothing. That's absolutely right, Menno. Hey, well, nice to see you, Mr. Orange. Hello. And yeah, I think we're going to be wrapping up. But before, I had one more news thing I wanted to mention. It's relation to a 2020 case where an individual sued the IRS because they were trying to get data from Coinbase for him and many other users, over 16,000 users in unauthorized access, violating the Constitution and his rights to get this data in a big call. Of course, the IRS says that it was within their right to request this information, but Elon Musk has taken a stand, filing an amicus brief against this. So this case centers on a subpoena issued by the IRS, which allowed the agency to obtain 3 years of transaction records from Coinbase, covering more than 14,000 users. Okay, I'm sorry, 14,000, not 16,000, including petitioner James Harper. X argues that this action, conducted without specific suspicion or judicial approval, infringes on constitutional protections. And the Supreme Court took notice and on Monday directed the federal government to provide a response. So that means that they do want more information at the Supreme Court. This case is not already ruled in favor of the IRS, and I think this is something that we should be following when it comes to our privacy, which is absolutely important. So this sweeping subpoena required the IRS to gather a large volume of Coinbase records and lacked the individualized basis that is required by law. It was supposedly suspicionless. So yeah, I think that's a good thing. Well, we hear often about the negatives of Musk and Trump. They did some good stuff, I would say, along with some questionable stuff as they continue to do. Anyway, I'm here for the ride with you guys. It's a fun movie. It's a fun movie. I hope you guys are doing great. Thank you for showing up today. And here's our quote of the day, as we often finish with on the show, by Dudley Field Malone. I have never in my life learned anything from any man who agreed with me. So yeah, if you don't think that rates are coming down by the end of the year, or you think that the bull market is over, let me know in the comments below. I especially would love to know if you guys feel like there is such thing as a crypto cycle anymore. It does feel like we've moved away from that, and we are in unprecedented waters here, so it's anyone's guess. Anyway, that's the show I have for you guys. I'll catch you guys as soon as I can and bring you the latest, greatest, and most impactful news that I think will benefit and protect you guys as we move forward here. Just try to hold on and grow your holdings and avoid clicking anything. Take care. Much love and stay cryptic. Peace.